Today we're going to repair D100 tools, and this is the tool. It comes with either a nut setting or riveting attachments. But generally one of the problems that occurs is leaking of the reservoir, which could be caused by someone throwing the tool down or a leaking seal. Other than that, the main problems are abuse. But in any case, we'll begin by disassembling the tool. The nose tube, of course, should be hand tight and come off with ease. The master shaft should be hand tight and come off with ease. Now, in order to remove what is called the three-part assembly, we will have to take two C-clips off the pivot pin, and then the whole assembly will drop out. Now, I generally remove those clips by pushing down with two small screwdrivers, which you probably can't see from there. But it's a very simple process. Press on one end of the clip and press on the other and it'll pop out. We have the two clips, pin, and we remove the pump shaft. Place the tool in the collet holder. And in order to remove it, we use a torque wrench and a 3/8 shaft. And the handle lifts off and the nut. Now, in order to remove it, we have to remove the depressing pin. And I just use it, even a rivet will work, but it just pops out like so. And then, now you can see that this one is probably almost empty of oil. And we'll have to remove the old reservoir and replace it with a new, which in this case is the only problem. We remove the old ring and the old reservoir. I have a screwdriver that I've sanded down so it's completely smooth so it doesn't tear the rubber. And now we just remove the old and throw it away. Now, one thing I usually check for is I run my finger along this edge to see if there's any burrs. And there's a little one there, so we will just file it off. That way when we put the new reservoir on, it won't get scratched. All right, we're going to replace the reservoir with a new reservoir and a new O-ring up front. Now, this is a little tight getting over, but we just slide it over. And then I take my sanded screwdriver.
Okay, I'll edit.
And we're going to pull this over the cap. And having done that, now we're going to seat the reservoir in this groove back here.
Okay, when you're done there, just hold it up so we can see it.
So there it is, and make sure it's completely seated.
Okay, hold it right there.
In the ring.
Okay, just kind of rotate it. That's at the side view. Yeah, that's it.
Now, we have to make sure that this opening is over the plunger, so It may be difficult to see, but we just rotate it within the reservoir and you'll see the little releasing button. And now we have to seat the front of the reservoir in its groove. And there we are. So now we move to the next station, which is merely a holder and we have a nylon piece that we fit over, and the O-ring should just slide over it. And here's another nylon piece. Now we're going to use this to seat the O-ring in its groove, working our way around. And the way you know it's seated is you should see a black line, which of course is the rubber all the way around. It may be difficult to see, but it's there. We double check to see that the everything is seated properly over the hole, and it is, and so we're ready to go. We replace the bushing in the back, which is just a loose fitting, but it has to be in there. And in order to reassemble the tool, we begin by replacing the three-part assembly into the shroud, noticing that everything is lined up. And we go back into the collet holder, replacing the lock ring that was there, and we place the handles. There's a stud here, so this hole in the handle goes over the stud. And here we are. Now the nut has to be replaced and tightened. And this was the tool we used to remove it. And now we must hold the handle here so it doesn't turn and get out of alignment with the hole. And there we are. The next step would be to replace the pump shaft. And it is placed in with the slot facing forward. And we bring the handles closed and replace the shaft. Now the shaft is sitting there, but we have to replace those two little lock rings that we took off. We take the C-clip, seat it, and then push it into its slot. And it's probably difficult to see, but it's now...
Just hold it there, I can see it.
That one is completely seated.
Yeah.
On the other side, we have to line up the groove. C-clip. And seat it. So, the handle is ready. And our next step will be to fill and bleed. And to do that, we must reassemble the front end parts. Spring, master shaft, and we'll be ready to go. For that, we move over to this station, which is merely a holding fixture. The tool is placed in, upside handles facing up, and a special bleed fixture is required. We call it a prong, and it's got a lip on it so that it goes into the rubber reservoir and is well seated there. Now we have a foot switch into a little giant pump in a reservoir of oil. and we have to refill the reservoir, which we do by pumping until, you probably can't see this, but
Yeah, I can see it. I can see it. Yeah.
air bubbles are coming out, oil is going in, and we keep now we begin to pump the handles. And we will pump the reservoir out so that we can completely fill it. Now I've got my foot on the pedal and I'm continuing to pump oil, and now I've got the reservoir out about halfway, and now I squeeze it and you'll see hopefully bubbles coming out.
Yeah.
And that's a fast way to get a lot of air out, is just by squeezing the reservoir while we've got the oil pumping. Oh, it's always good to tilt it a few times. We're very close now because I can see there's very few bubbles. Yes, now there's no more bubbles coming out, so I will close the handles and press down on the prong, and the tool is in the release position. But again, I'll run the pump to see if any air bubbles were dislodged, and there were a few. So we should be completely filled and the tool essentially repaired. We remove it from the and now we have to replace the releasing button. I just noticed that this releasing button has been scarred, so I do not want to use it. I will get a new one. Now, the releasing button has a lip on it, so it gets underneath the rubber, and it goes in by me setting it on one side and pushing on the opposite side. And it is in. Now, we'll test the tool to see if we had enough oil in there. So it takes 15 pumps to completely reach the end. And the true test is if it works upside down. And it doesn't, which means there's air in the tool and I'll have to re-bleed it. We'll return to the bleeding fixture and repeat the process. And we can see there are some air bubbles. We'll pump out and squeeze. Yeah, there we are. Okay, that should have it. We'll try it again. Release it. Take our foot off the and just check it to see if there's any residual air. It appears to be good. So we'll try again. Remove from the fixture. I know this will work because the oil came to the top. We'll replace the button as before. And the test. 13. So the tool has no air in it and it should work fine. We clean it up. Replace the shield. Replace the nose tube. The turn nut, if it's a nut setting operation. And again, the turn nut must always be with the hollow side out. And we're ready to go, completely repaired. And good for many, many operations.